Press the bell icon on YouTube and don't miss another update.
Namaskar. Welcome to another episode of Editorial. Looks like Mumbai airport will be now with Adani for the next 50 years. Adani is trying to take over the Mumbai airport and GVK group is possibly handing it over to Adani group. Of course, there are problems because Abu Dhabi Investment Authority, ADIA and Canada Public Sector Pensions, they are contesting because they said, listen, how can you give it to a third person because, we were supposed to be a consortium. So they are protesting with it. They are protesting on it. But by the looks of it, it's Adani. So, chances are that they may get what they want. Now, my question tonight is, what expertise does Adani have to own airports or to operate airports? Adani today has Lucknow, Ahmedabad, Jaipur, Mangaluru, Trivendrum and Guwahati. Trivendrum, of course, the Chief Minister of Trivendrum is absolutely upset the fact that Adani is taking over their airport. And rest of the states are all Bharatiya Janata Party governed states, so there is no much of a problem. But what expertise does Adani have to run the airport? Number one. Number two, see, the entire concept of getting Adani and others into operating and running of airports was because the government felt that, there are only two companies. Companies were running the airports, operating the airports, so the government said it is unfair, it is duopoly. Just two people running the show. So they got Adani involved. So all of a sudden, duopoly chodke, it looks as if now it is monopoly. Because 6 out of the 8 airports which was given off was given to Adani. So what kind of management is this? What kind of policies are this? What kind of governance is this? I wanted to deep dive into this subject. So I invited Captain Mohan Ranganathan to have a conversation and find out from him how is this entire thing done? How is this airport operated? What are the technical expertise that a company needs to run an airport? And if they don't have that technical expertise, what happens to us? What about our safety? So this is my interview. Have a look at it. Let's get right into the show. Captain Ranganathan, welcome back to my show.
Yeah.
Captain, Chief Minister of Kerala says that he is not going to cooperate with the government if Adani were to manage the airport in Trivandrum. How fair is that?
I think he's right because Adanis have no experience in running an airport or aviation for that matter. Just because you have money, it doesn't mean that you are an expert in everything. And Vijay Mallya proved that with Kingfisher.
Correct.
You see?
Correct.
And moreover, I think the Adanis, when they have said, they bid for 6 airports.
Mm-hmm.
Then recently they said that they will only take 3 now and 3 later using the force majeure clause because of the pandemic. Now, if you say that you don't have money for 3 airports, why pick on Trivandrum, which is already doing okay? And they're not interested in the south, honestly. It's more for the proximity to the sea. And I'm sure that if Cochin and Kannur pick up well, ultimately this will become more seaside resort than an airport.
Mm-hmm. See, Trivandrum is the capital of Kerala, so obviously the airport will be of significance, but you are absolutely right. What you are saying is Adani already has picked up a port near the Trivandrum airport, which is now managed by Adani. Mm-hmm. So now he has a port in Trivandrum, he has an airport in Trivandrum. Now the biggest problem, like you rightly said, and what the CM is saying is, A, Adani doesn't have the experience. B, you raised a very valid point that they have 6 airports, but they are not willing to take up 3, so claiming the force majeure clause, and they are now bidding for 1 more, which is Trivandrum. That's a very interesting point you raised here. Sir, tell me, how could Adani give a price of 168 when Kerala was giving around 135 and GVR was giving 63 rupees per person? How could they pitch at a price of 168? Where did they get this price of 168?
No, see, I'm going by media reports.
Yeah.
Like about the non-performing assets of State Bank of India. So you're saying where they pitched in, like when a big bank is willing to bankroll in spite of not performing, then you know where the money comes from. Once you get the bid, and you see, it is an airport authority airport run by the central government. So they can keep changing the rules and the conditions as and when they feel like. You can see that in every field. So what will happen is they will take it and then they will not do anything to develop it. And they will say that the cost doesn't, they will start, once you've moved everyone aside, then you can start bargaining, like the way it's happening for all the other aviation sectors. You know? So bid the high. Now, for them to have bid and won, I feel that they must, because when airport authority has bid something and your Kerala government has bid 136 or whatever figure you mentioned.
135.
No.
135.
Yeah, for them to bid 35 more or 33 more, it means they must have been tipped off. See, unless they are tipped off, this kind of high bidding is not possible to grab a tender.
Correct. You know what is very interesting, Captain? What is interesting is, normally Kerala State Industrial Corporation could have still bid and won the tender if it was 10% lesser than what the top bidder, which is Adani, had bidded. So Kerala State Government bid 135 rupees, whereas they bid 168 rupees. Had they bid something like 155 rupees, had Kerala government bid something like 155 rupees, possibly Kerala government would have got that contract. Anyway, sir, tell me, what happens if an unexperienced player like Adani takes over an airport like Trivandrum?
See, even experienced players. Now, in India, people think if you have a fancy terminal building and all the facilities which are modern, they think that is a classy airport. And they will get magazines and media with, sort of plugged in reports to say this is the world's best airport. But look at the way, if you go to Changi or Hong Kong and Seoul, for them, they have fancy terminals, but they all recognize that the heart and soul of an airport is the runway. Now, you would have read reports about Mumbai being the top world-class airport. But every year they are having an aircraft running off the runway. Nothing is being done.
Correct.
So people don't realize that running an airport, even for a professional or people who know how to run an airport, when they're not able to do it, getting someone who's zero experience on airport, it is actually not only a question of financial implication, it is also a huge flight safety implication.
The same group now is trying to take over the Mumbai airport. What is this thing about airport?
Now, if you take Mumbai airport, now it is an established fact until this pandemic hit us that the airport was insufficient for the kind of traffic that Mumbai was generating.
Correct.
So you had the Navi Mumbai.
Correct.
And Navi Mumbai was cleared in spite of environment violations.
Yes.
But you know how the environment ministry in the center, they only, waiting with a pen to sign anything that you require. They know nothing about environment and they gave the clearance. Now, if Navi Mumbai comes, there is going to be absolutely no traffic in Mumbai because you can't have two airports within such a short distance. And just like what happened in Hyderabad, they had to close Begumpet, and in Bangalore, they had to close the HAL airport. So what will happen is this whole pocket will become a huge real estate. Even if they don't sell it, if it's a lease, they can still lease it out for hotels and things like that. It is a huge real estate market. So that is what they are interested in, not in running an airport.
Oh, so you're saying it is the land in which the airport is situated that is of more interest than the actual airport per se. Is that what you're saying, sir?
Yeah, if Navi Mumbai comes, this is only a piece of land. It is not an airport.
This is another very interesting angle, sir. But tell me, the airport is only for 50 years. So what would you think they will lease it out to? Are they authorized to lease it out to others?
I'm sure there will be a clause. And if you have the government eating out of your hands, rules can be bent. You know, you've seen that with, you know, owner of an airline was arm twisted to hand over an airline for peanuts to somebody else who was close to the government.
Correct.
The same thing will happen here. Like once their interest was shown, you see the Parrot Brigade, the ED and CBI being sent after the GVK group. They also have a really good airport in Hyderabad. The day is not far off that will also be up for grabs for somebody who's close to the government. That is what is happening. It is not now. It has been happening for years. If you're close to the government, rules are just brushed aside.
Adani operates Lucknow, which is a BJP-run government, Ahmedabad, BJP-run government, Jaipur, state governments too, central and state. Jaipur, when it was acquired, it was a BJP-run government. Mangalore, when it was acquired, and even now, it's a BJP-run government. Trivendrum is the only place which is not a BJP-run government, and therefore all this issue. And Guwahati, obviously, BJP-run government. So possibly every state in which Adani acquired the airports are BJP-run states. So again, like I said, these are all our point of views. We may be right, we may be wrong, but the fact is they're all BJP-run states. Now tell me, sir, what is the advantage? Why you know, the whole idea of having people like Adani and Reliance and others coming and bidding for airport is because at that point in time, the government felt that the entire airport operations were run by two people. So basically it was duopoly. So they wanted to break this duopoly and open it for a lot more people than just GMR and GVR. Now, in the process, what they have done is they have created another monopoly almost with Adani. And Adani has, out of the 8 airports which they auctioned out, 8 airports which they gave out for, not auctioned out, but gave out for gave out for lease, 6 went to Adani, 2 went to Reliance. And the fact remains that this duopoly almost became monopoly, isn't it?
Exactly. This is exactly what is happening. Like earlier, if you take even the Delhi airport, when it was given, you know, Delhi will claim that they have the longest runway in Asia.
Correct.
14,500 feet of runway. But you know, aircrafts cannot land in the first 4,500 meters because you've got the Shiv Murti statue at one end. When GMR bid for that, they knew very well that that can't be used. But you as a passenger are paying for the user development fee because they built a thing which can be used only for takeoff and not for landing. So nobody questions these things.
Correct. Sir,
yeah.
Sorry. You're saying, sorry.
No, so when somebody who is not in the field is bidding for something, don't think that there is no hidden dragon there.
Correct.
You know?
Sir, tell me, God forbid, in a situation when there is an accident, when there is a crash or something goes wrong in the airport, sir, are these companies liable? Will the government hold these companies liable?
This is the interesting point, because if you take the Mangalore accident, there were wholesale violations by Airport Authority, DGCA, the airline, and the court of inquiry headed by an air marshal was just pure garbage. They hid everything. You know, the same thing is going to happen in Calicut now. So, because it was Airport Authority, everything run by Ministry of Civil Aviation, Airport Authority, Air India, the DGCA is all controlled by the ministry. Now, if the Adani's bid and an accident takes place, and hypothetically, if a non-BJP government was in the center, question is, will they go after him? But I worked for Sahara earlier, and I know that all these people, they have every party in their pocket. So they have their tracks covered very well. So even if there is an accident, you have to hope that you have an American dying in that crash, because then the US courts take over. As long as no American dies in an air crash in India, don't expect an Indian court to even intervene.
That means, sir, if something goes wrong, God forbid, in Lucknow, Ahmedabad, Jaipur, Mangaluru, Trivendrum, Guwahati, will Adani not be liable for it?
Technically, they are liable.
Would they be paying the people who've lost their lives or injured?
Not at all, because our accident investigation is a farce. Like even the Calicut one now, it's going to be covered up. The very first day, now you take accidents which have taken place worldwide, it is either the CEO of the company or the lead investigator who will give the press statement. What did we have here? In Mangalore, Praful Patel, the same day he said, nothing wrong with Mangalore, we conform to every clause of ICAO standards. And I proved that they didn't follow even one. Calicut, what did Hardeep Puri and the DGCA say? Oh, the Hardeep Puri and DGCA said they felt 35 feet is 35 meters. They don't even know the difference between feet and meters. Yeah? And they've already crucified the captain and the pilots. So, if you see the reports, you will find that they will doctor everything. And technically, they must have an independent investigator who is not controlled by them. But unfortunately, as long as you have everything controlled, you can forget about liability. If you have connections, you can get away with murder.
Sir, my last question. Sir, these airports, when the bid is made, when the tenders are made, sir, what amount of impetus is given for technical expertise? Which means what I'm asking you is, when they look at a GMR versus a GVR versus maybe in this case a Kerala State Industrial Development Corporation versus a Adani, sir, what impetus is given on the technical expertise of these companies versus the amount of money that they offer the government? What is the ratio?
Technical expertise is only on paper. Now take for instance, everything, like whether it's for the last 20 years, who's been heading Air India or DGCA or Airport Authority? The Babus. Have any of them done well?
So you are saying that technically people are put at risk.
No, you got to have, like you can't have the QR saying that you must have 25 years and, they'll say, okay, get Air Force. Now, there's a difference between an Air Force mentality and civil aviation mentality. Even among pilots, you have to save yourself. The machine is dispensable. That is why they have an ejection seat. And it is not that while an airline pilot right from the beginning, the passengers behind you are the primary responsibility. So the whole attitude and the mindset is different. See, earlier, when you had the airlines run by professionals or airports, which were also run by professionals, safety came first, not the frill. Like you have never judge a book by the cover. This is a perfect example. As long as everything looks nice, nothing happens, it's fine. An accident takes place, then they go into overdrive to cover up. Nobody wants to find out what went wrong to prevent another occurrence. Same way in the airports. I give it to someone who doesn't know head or tail about aviation.
Correct.
So anything which is on, when you have bean counters, they are only interested in money. And let me tell you, take Singapore. They shut down one terminal because they don't see any foreseeable improvement in aviation for the next 2 years at least, maybe 5 years. Well, here, people are bidding big for airports and bidding big for Mumbai. When there is no, unless you have international travel, tourism build up, aviation is not going to survive. Now here people are talking about, aviation is going to be bounced back. Now, you don't have international tourist travel. They have leased aircraft where you have to pay in dollars. Domestic travel doesn't give you dollar income. It's only the tourists who will give you dollar income.
Correct.
So to think that I have the money, how much cash reserve can you have? So very soon you're going to have more and more people biting the dust, and who's going to bail the cat? So if there is no traffic, Adani or anyone bidding for the airport, they're not going to generate the projected funds for the next 5 years. So do they have, if banks are giving loans for that bid, have they done their due diligence to find out what is going to be the projected payback? They don't look at all that. You can play with numbers.
Sir, thank you so much for giving us this kind of information, and some of the information that you gave was so valuable. Thank you so much, sir.
You're welcome, sir.